Hi, this is Simon Moon from Simon Moon Music, and it's part 7 in my series of tutorials on how to produce music with Bitwig Studio. Today I would like to show you some basic track editing workflows, actually while I'll be working on the track we started, and explain as best I can what I'm doing while I'm doing it. Okay, so let's listen to what the track sounds like so far. Okay, so since this is already pretty dynamic and has a lot of notes in a very short period of time, I suggest to have something else as an introduction. And one important thing, we make our introduction 16 bars long. So in order to make room for that, I simply moved this to a later position in the song, and now I have 16 bars in the beginning. How did I do that? I click Ctrl Z or Ctrl Z to undo what I've just done, and I simply select everything, grab it at any element of my choice, and move it to the position I want it to be. So now let's make an introduction. I would like to start with the beat, because it's always nice to have some kind of orientation. Sometimes when you work on an offbeat bass, you tend to hear one of the offbeat hits of the bass as actually the start of the bar. Your hearing adapts to that, and then you get confused with the groove. So as an orientation, I would like to have the kick in, at least. Okay, and I remove all the other elements because I want this to be extremely simple, at least to start with. So I select this and I make sure that the time frame I've selected is also only this single bar, because then if I hit Ctrl and D, it duplicates it over into the next position. If I highlight this whole section here and click Ctrl D, it copies it over to the next slot that comes after the section I've highlighted. Important thing to notice. So now I only select this one, hit Ctrl D a couple of times, and maybe leave a gap here. And now I will concentrate on the bass line. And it's always a good idea to somehow introduce elements that come later in the song at an early stage, because it doesn't make sense to have completely new elements with every single drop or song section you work in. There has to be something that that the listener can identify as a constituent of the track that is typical for this track. And if you have too many elements, it's just like listening to the radio without actually paying attention to it. And since this is a 16 bar section, sorry about that, I would like to, I think this is in A minor, is it? Oh, that's something totally different. Okay, I think I messed up on this, have to correct this later, but let's just ignore this for a second. So now would be A minor, and this is actually supposed to be D minor, which works. This should also be D minor. And this should be D minor as well. Okay, so another thing I want to do is reduce this a little bit. So we'll quote what comes later, but in a reduced version. So let's see what this sounds like. Oh no, sorry about that. Okay. Now I think, okay, that's an interesting groove. Then we duplicate this one, but leave out these last notes. Do the same here. I eliminate this one so that there is a little shift in our groove. Oh, sorry. Sometimes it's hard to work on this resolution. It's easier if I work in my regular setup, which is a 2-display setup, but for the tutorials it doesn't work any other way. So, okay, let's listen to that. There is another note here that works like this, but maybe it's better like this. Okay, then again I duplicate this and take away the last notes. And I do pretty much the same here. This isn't part of the scale at all. I take out these, pick these and move them here. Let's try this. Listen to that real quick. Okay, doesn't obviously make that much sense to leave the gap in our drum part. And now I'll copy this whole section over. And now we have the basis for our 16-bar introduction. Okay, and now to give this a little bit more texture and fill in some of the portions of our frequency spectrum with something else, I pick an element from our second part here, and we've already set up this trans-gated kind of synth, and I would like to use this here as well, but I want this to be a little bit more muffled throughout the whole section, because just in order to remind us of what we were doing here. So this is basically a low-pass filter, and if I reduce this to nothing, we don't hear anything at all. Here it's quite muffled, but that's what I want. So I want this to come in here. It will be barely audible in the beginning. So, and then I copy this over again with a different kind of articulation or automation curve, if you will. And I will open up the filter in the beginning of the second part in order to also give the signal to the listener that this is different from what he just listened to. And maybe repeat that here. And then open up the filter a little bit more here. And then have this effect of opening up for a very brief portion of time, or a very brief time window here, and then let it open up even a little bit further. And then we'll repeat that and make it overall open up even more over time, and therefore have this synth more and more dominant in our introductory sequence here. Okay, I do the same here right now. And again. And then make it open up all the way right at the end. So this is the foundation of our introduction. I want to listen to this one more time. Sorry, from the start. Okay, so the point where the introduction ends and this second drop, or the A drop, whatever you want to call it, starts, of course needs some kind of, maybe a riser to lead over to what's coming next, because now at the moment this is much too ad hoc, and it doesn't make sense when you listen to a track you've never heard before if something changes that rapidly without being introduced in this 1 bar or 2 bars before it actually starts. But we'll take care of that later, and for now I will concentrate on this introductory sequence, and I think it's time to add a plug. So in order to do that, there's another way that I could show you right now. It makes sense. Okay, we have different compartments or tabs, if you will, in this browser section. You can hide this browser section or make it visible by clicking on this little folder here. And then we have our devices here first, where we can find the FM4, for example. And here we have samples, like the vocal samples we use in our chorus. And we also have browser presets, presets for the plugins that Bitwig comes with. And for some plugins, they show up, third-party plugins, their presets show up here as well. Not for all of them. It's probably something to do with the way these plugins are integrated. But for now, let's simply type plug here, and it shows us all the plugs that are available for FM4, for the polysynth, whatever. So here we don't have a clear separation what instrument we're dealing with. They simply appear as a flat list here. And since this sounds a lot like Psytrance, I will simply use this and put it on a completely new instrument track. And you can see that while dragging this to the editing section of our song, Bitwig generates not only a new track, it also makes it an instrument track. It inserts the polysynth here with that preset loaded in already. Okay, I just hide the browser section again, and I think we can work with that. I just want to make it sound a little bit more weird, and there are interesting inharmonic aspects in this sound. That's the bellish character. Sounds a bit like a metallic bell, especially if it hit it only very shortly. You can hear this interesting delay, this filtered delay that comes afterwards. And I would like to bring this out a little bit more. And in order to do this, I will use distortion, which generates high frequency harmonics based on what the sound already gives it. Okay, so I'll do that right now. You can hear the difference right away. The motion is much more audible now. The motion that's built into the sound, that's programmed in the polysynth. I would like to increase drive even further, and then see the filter frequency, or the of this bell filter here pronounces specific frequencies, and I'm trying to find the one which sounds best. Okay. Let's play with the bias, DC bias a little bit. Maybe reduce slew. And turn down drive. I think I go for 100% wet. And I would like to reduce width at this. Maybe not. Okay. And in order to bring out the characteristics that gets added by the distortion even further, I will put a compressor in the end, because this one will bring out the softer elements of the sound a little bit more, and that could make it even more dense and interesting. So let's simply try that. I don't want to go too low with this threshold. I just want to influence the loudest parts, only the tips, the peaks in volume. Turn down release, actually as far as possible. If I turn it down all the way, then another form of distortion is introduced, which I don't want. You might be able to hear that. So this is without this compressor distortion, and this is with. Also got something interesting to it, but I don't want to mess with the sound too much. Okay. So this is what it sounded like before I added distortion in the compressor. Now that you heard the other version, it sounds a bit dull, obviously, and this one sounds much better. Okay, so now we got our sound, and I would like to have play that a melody. And so this is our A minor section, and we could use this to introduce this new sound. Let me just try something. Too low. And I copy it over, increase a semitone, which would be the 6th in A minor. Okay, let's see. Let me see if it's more interesting if I put it here. Oh no. Okay. But now it's a bit too exact on the groove, and this sounds awkward. It sounds like a robot playing this, and therefore I just nudge these second tones in each quarter bar a little to the left. And actually Bitwig, if I simply click and drag, doesn't let me do this very well, because it snaps to the next grid position. In order to avoid Bitwig snapping to the next grid position, I hold down Shift while I move this to the left. And now it floats freely, and I can simply let go wherever I think is appropriate. And let's listen to this. Okay, and now simply to have a little variation, let's see if this works. Obviously not. But maybe I could try something like this. So this should be a triplet now. No? Oh, it's a triplet. Okay, that'll do. And but now it's far too loud, and it sounds like it isn't actually part of the track, which we can improve by giving this one the same kind of reverb that we use for the other sounds. Okay, it's still too loud. Now let's listen to it in context. Okay, that's what I thought. Let's start from the fifth bar. Okay, then we have to find the next spot where this makes sense, or at least a variation of it. Okay, so let me see. Okay. Somehow okay. Okay, that's better. But let's pitch this down an octave. And then copy this over to this position. Okay, and then another thing I just noticed is that for some reason this groove is a bit off, and that's probably to do with the speed knob here. Okay, that's better, I think. I make this a bit softer. And another thing I would like to do, with this I would like to end this tutorial today, is here you see that there is another kind of bass being introduced. And in this in these last two bars of our introduction, this should somehow appear already, so that the audience is already familiar with the tone, the sound of this bass when the second part begins. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this over, and a very cheap trick, for introducing such a new element is if we sorry, that's not helpful. I have to go to this lead sound here, and I will add a filter in the end. And we simply open up that filter. So make this a low pass filter, and that's already what it is. Turn down the resonance. Well, we'll have to tweak that later on. And now, this is filter cutoff. If I move this knob around here, you can see filter cutoff appeared up here. I click the plus sign to create a new automation lane for this, and then I simply go here and let this open up completely so that the filter has no effect on the sound anymore after these 2 bars are through. Okay, so maybe increase this a little here, decrease this here. Okay, I prolong this loop section, the loop bar, and now we can listen to this transition. Okay, and now we obviously lose a lot of bass energy on the second part here, so it might make sense to copy this whole MIDI part over to the FM lead. Let's listen to what it sounds like. Okay. That's a good idea, but not at this point. So another thing I will be doing is I simply make room so that I know where I am for the next section. I would like to, so this is our chorus here. I make room, another 8 bars, highlight this section here, copy it over, and then in this lead section I take out these, and let's listen to what we've just done. Okay, I include this transition here. Okay, that's good. Another thing, I don't want to be this to be that dominant in that part. So, oh, sorry. I have to select all of those, and now I can show you another trick with Bitwig Studio. You could either grab one of these handles here and move everything down. Another very handy way is simply go to the velocity section here, and especially if you have elements which are louder or softer than the other ones, if you drag here, then this will be reduced proportionately. So that's a quite clever thing they built into Bitwig. Or you could simply type in a value like this. That's not what I want to do right now. I simply will listen to this part and reduce the velocity of this auxiliary bass here until it supports the other bass but is not too dominant. Now it sets in. Stupid. I have to grab them all. No, not what you think. I'm not Donald Trump. Okay, let's listen to this one more time. Start right here. See, this is without this auxiliary bass. Now I bring it in. Okay, now we're getting there, I think. I think this is all for this tutorial. I just want to play through the track real quick one more time, at least what we've done today, and that transition to the second drop. Of course, we will have to work on this transition a little bit further, but that's already something to work with, and it doesn't sound too bad, I think. So, playing it right afterwards. To end this tutorial, I hope you liked it. If you did, follow me on YouTube and have fun with the track. Have a nice day.